That is hardcore.
This is hardcore shit.
But for me, it's harder and harder to resist.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Hardcore Horror with Mike and Brigitte. This is the very first inaugural podcast episode, and I'm here with Brigitte. Hey, Brigitte.
Hey, let's talk about some gore and horror. Let's do it.
Gore and horror. All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
So today what we're going to do is a little bit about ourselves and our relationship with horror and horror movies and things of that nature, correct?
Yeah.
All right, let's let you go first. Start it off. Where did this infatuation with the macabre begin with you?
Oh, man. So honestly, I was thinking about this earlier, that I've been pretty much watching horror movies probably way before I was really supposed to be. You know, I was born in the 80s, which is a huge decade with slasher films. The very, very first horror movie that I ever saw was Children of the Corn. I think I was maybe around like 3 years old, and I remember that my mom and dad, my sister and my brother were all watching it, and they kept trying to make me stay upstairs, and they were trying to get me to watch Dukes of Hazzard. And I was so damn infatuated with it. I kept like walking down the stair, like creeping down. So I was kind of watching it like almost like a scene from a movie, like I was watching it from the stair rails. And I was so infatuated with it. But that was the very first horror movie I ever saw. My parents, like my dad, cannot stand horror movies. It's not his thing. My mom secretly loves horror movies. She doesn't tell a lot of people, but we used to stay up. I'm the youngest of three. We used to stay up late nights and watch horror movies. And there was things that I even watched, growing up as a kid. And my mom was like, "Oh, that was so good." So like rape scenes, like when I was a kid, rape scenes would always bother me, you know. But as I've gotten older, you start to build a tolerance for that. And I don't know, I really have the last probably maybe 5 years, I've really, really started pushing my limits on movies, and things that used to bother me wouldn't bother me now. But I watched a movie tonight, the new Scream movie, and it was all I could do to sit through it. It was, for me, I was like, oh, it was too cheesy, too cheeseball, because I'm a little bit more hardcore. So, but no, I've done so much with horror. I hooked up with Tennessee Horror Promotions and helped them do some marketing. And I've been in a few movies acting the last 3 years, and no, I love it. It's definitely a passion of mine. I'm like, hey, date night, what are you gonna do? Let's watch horror movies. That's like my go-to. It's my thing. So what about you? Where did it come from for you?
Same, really. For me, it started at a very young age. I can't really pinpoint it exactly. And my mother, even though to this day she would say that she doesn't like horror movies, but back in the day when I was young, she definitely did, because there were a lot that I watched, and somebody had to put them on for me. And actually, the first memory that I have, I think that I can remember, the first drive-in memory that I have is watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the one from the 70s.
Yeah.
Okay, that thing came out in 78. Because I was 2 years old. Anyway, I was very young. I still remember bits and pieces of that movie. Obviously, the ending with Donald Sutherland, burned in my head from that one time. Not that I've seen it multiple times since then, but that was like the original thing. But I mean, it was like all in that time period. But like I was obsessed with witches. I loved the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz. My first book was Man, Myth, and Magic. Like I said, my mother watched all these horror movies, and that was the thing about back then. I didn't have like cable or anything, but we had the 3 channels. But back when I was growing up, even though you had the 3 channels and sometimes Fox, you still could get a lot of horror movies. Like I watched The Exorcist multiple times, and The Shining, and all that stuff, and loved it. Of course, it's edited for television. Some of the scenes, like the scene with the crucifix, wasn't exactly. It was edited down, but still enough to scare the shit out of you when you're a little kid. Very, very little. And there was all this other stuff that was on too. There was stuff like Elvira at night. There was late at night, late at night, there was these old 50s sci-fi black and white movies I used to watch. Then comes stuff like Tales from the Dark Side and Friday the 13th, the series, and then Freddy's Nightmares, which I've been watching recently again. And, all this stuff. And I watched all this stuff. But I wasn't, and of course, Universal Monsters, I watched all that and loved all those growing up as well. I wasn't a vivacious horror watcher just because it was a long time before we actually had like VCRs, DVD players, stuff like that. So those things were just very sporadic as far as watching like a Friday the 13th or Texas Chainsaw and stuff like that. But I remember watching part 2 and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and just being like freaked out, like what the hell. So I was pretty little then. So I've kind of been watching it my whole life, but it wasn't until like my teens where I really started getting into, or like as kind of a not like a my only source of entertainment, but it was definitely the top. And it stretched on from movies, some books, magazines, and music. Even I liked even horror themed music like Double Negative and stuff.
Yeah.
So it kind of just went through all of those sort of channels, and I've always had the love for it. And then it just kind of grew and grew more and more and more. And I started collecting movies, and back then, it was a little bit different than it is now. I mean, now I feel like it's just an overabundance, a saturation of movies. It's just like I can't put all in my eyeballs. It's just like I can't do it. There's just so many of them. But back then, it was more like you find something from at the local store, video store, or something like that, and you just like you love it because like it's like your night that you're gonna watch this horror movie.
You were probably like me. I can remember being, oh my gosh, probably like 5 or 6 years old. And if you remember back in the day, you could rent VHSs from Kroger. So my mom would go grocery shopping, and I'm like, I'm going to the video section at 5 or 6 years old. You think I would be going like to the kid movies and Care Bears or, those type. I went straight to the horror section. And then they would, the covers. I'd be so obsessed with the covers. But that was my thing. And my mom would let me rent them. She'd let me rent them, and I loved it. And I think about it now, I'm like, I have a 15-year-old daughter. She would never, ever, ever want to go and rent horror movies. But that was one really great memory for me as a child, like really, really young. Going to the horror section. I'm sure that you've probably along the same lines. I'm sure you probably did something similar, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. The thing about those covers is, never judge a book by the cover, because the cover was oftentimes much better, but it drew you in and you're just like, oh my goodness.
Yep. That is so legit. It is legit.
Those covers, especially in the 80s, those covers were fantastic.
Yep. Yeah. So now that, you kind of told me your backstory, and I know that, you directed some horror movies, and I've done some acting in horror movies. So how did that start for you?
Believe it or not, it actually started with the cons. It started with like, say, Ben Dixon's con, and the one in Louisville I used to go to, Fright Night and stuff like that, was kind of the initial thing. So what happened was, like I said, I'd always been a horror fan. I used to write horror stories. I started writing horror. Actually, I used to be in bands, and I used to write horror lyrics. And bandmates would be like, what the hell is this? What's this? And then I wrote some short stories that were horror, and I was always into that sort of thing. So I had a friend, and his girlfriend actually wanted to be a director. And she wanted to be a horror director, or at least that was one of the main genres she wanted to do. But so we went to these cons, and I started, talking to these actors and just people behind the scenes, and kind of realized that, it was kind of a reality, because before that, I never really thought of it. To me, like, it was just Hollywood or people with a lot of money. And I never entered my head to want to do it, because I never thought of it as a possibility.
Yeah.
So with this, my friend's girlfriend, now wife, she decided she wanted to do some stuff. So we did there was all these little competition things or little promotion things. And there was one for Heinz ketchup. And so she wanted to do one for that. So she had me act in it. So I play this vampire who can't open up a bottle of ketchup. So I'll show it to you. But the thing is, I'm trying to open up this ketchup and it's just silly, goofy. And I can't open it up. I can't open it up. So I end up just showing my fangs and biting into the ketchup.
Hey, you got to start somewhere though,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So that was the first thing that I ever did. And I loved it. I kind of could just call the bug just with that. And then I helped on a couple other little shorts after that. And then me kind of being more of a writer, at least at that time, I felt like I wrote a little screenplay. It was a little 14-page, mostly narration screenplay called Brimstone. And I wanted her to direct it. I was like, if I write something, will you direct it? She's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe. And I wrote it, and I kind of was like pushing for it and wanting her to direct it. And it just didn't end up happening for certain reasons and everything. And I got kind of impatient. And I was like, well, I think I'm just going to do it myself. And so the 14-page screenplay, it actually turned into a little bit larger screenplay. It still wasn't a big, large screenplay. But anyway, that became my first movie. And I just said, okay, well, I'm just going to do it myself. Having very limited experience other than the 3 or 4 times I helped them. I just read a few books and just went out and did it.
Yeah. Hey, that's the best way to do it. You know, I never ever thought in a million years that I would have ever been acting. It just kind of landed in my lap. And I remember talking to some friends of mine, the guys at Tennessee Horror Promotions.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Jim is one of my really good friends. And the day before we started filming, my first day filming, he texts me, he's like, are you really excited? I was like, I am so damn nervous. I don't even know what the fuck to do. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, when you read the script, it says, because I also, my first acting gig was also a vampire. And it says, the vampires run up on this homeless camp. And I was like, but that's all it says. Like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, don't you worry. The director will tell you exactly what to do. But so that all kind of just landed in my lap, and I had so much fun with it and made friends with the director, and that's why he cast me as a lead role in the movie we filmed this past summer. It's supposed to, we don't have a trailer for it yet. It's supposed to come out in October, but it's called All That Ends. It's my first lead role, so I'm really excited about that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, dialogue, memorizing your dialogue is tough for someone who doesn't have a lot of acting experience. That was definitely a challenge for me, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I commend anybody who can do long stretches of dialogue, because I couldn't do it myself. Anybody who thinks that they can just memorize things like that and flow through a scene, it's really hard. It's a lot harder than you think once you try it and actually see how much it takes a brain power to just memorize what you're doing, plus act it out and not sound phony. I mean, it's a lot, and so when you have those long patches of dialogue, it really takes a lot out of you. And so, especially like when we did Candy's Harem, our actress, I mean, she had so much dialogue. I mean, it's very talk heavy in that movie. And I really don't know how she did it, because I couldn't have done it myself.
Well, that is one of your movies. And I remember I was like, this was good. I loved it. I loved it. And I never saw that she screwed up anything. So if she did, your audience would never know. She did a really great job. She
Right.
did. Yeah, it was really good.
First movie she ever did. So I think she was very much dedicated to knowing those lines.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, she did a great job, I thought. Yeah, but it totally is a lot. And I'm friends with the script director. We call him the script Nazi, and he'll even call himself that. I'm like, if you get one word wrong, that's the thing, is you got to, like, when you're saying your lines, you have to, if you mess it up and you change it up, it's fine, but you have to do it every single time. And I mean, there was the very first day that we filmed, there was 10 of us in a room, and like 10 of us were having a conversation. Oh my God. I remember it's like scene 47 or take 47. I was like, oh my God. And it was so stressful that I started just getting delirious. And I was like, I know my lines, but if one person would mess it up, because the whole room's having a conversation, if one person mess it up, got to do the whole thing over again. And that was really tough, but we made it through, and I'm excited about it. I'm
Yeah.
definitely excited. Yeah.
That with those long, crazy takes and everything.
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine. We never did anything like that as far as those long, drawn out takes. But quickly going back to what you said about knowing the dialogue verbatim, I the only time I ever have a problem with that is when I'm doing subtitles because I'm like, what did you say? But other than that, I don't really care because I've worked with so many different actors and they all have their own unique different styles. And there are some that will hit you verbatim every time and will never miss a lick and know every word that you've written down. And there's some that will take it and they'll get really close and add their own spin. And then there's some that will totally make it their own and it's totally different than what you said, but it has the exact same meaning of what you're trying to convey. And as long as I can get any of that, I'm totally fine.
That's cool. That's cool that you do that. You're like, hey, as long as they keep it the same. But so you're from a director standpoint, I'm from an acting standpoint, but I have found that certain directors, they don't want you to change the words because it's almost like you're messing up like their art or something. Don't change my, no, I wrote it this way for a reason. And some are just like, hey, as long as you do it and you get it right, everything's good. So yeah, I think it really depends on who you work with, and that does make a big difference. I do feel like, for sure.
Right. It's for sure. Everybody that does have their own things, their little quirks and everything. For me, I feel like it's more of a collaborative process. I mean, it is my movie, but essentially I feel like organically we're making the movie together. I work with people who will give me ideas. They'd be like, oh, what about like this? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's actually cool. That's actually better than what I thought. And sometimes I go, no, I don't, it doesn't work,
Yeah.
I mean, idea. And sometimes I'll run with it. And sometimes I go, no, I have to rein that in because it's not what I'm going for. So, I mean, at the same time, you have to direct it in the way that you want it. But I still at the same time feel like, yes, I can get more out of people when I let them kind of feel the character themselves and kind of go with it again. As long as they know where it needs to go, I'm okay with it.
I will tell you, it's funny that you say that. So when I was reading the script for my character, so my character's name in All the Ends, which we just finished filming. They haven't even started. They wouldn't even have a trailer yet. So they're supposed to have everything finished by October. But my character's name is Michelle. And when I first read the script, I remember going to the director and I was like, oh my God, my character is such a dumb blonde. She is such a slut. But when you're actually acting, his mindset was so completely different. I didn't really like my character, but his mindset was different than what I had envisioned for her. And I didn't really learn that until I was on set. And I actually kind of started loving my character. But it's funny when you just read a script, it's kind of hard to tell like the mindset of the director. And that was one thing I was like, oh my God, you made me like the blonde slut, but I'm hoping when you see the movie that you'll see a whole different side of me and completely different mindset. So
Right.
That's your fun fact for the night.
Right. I think with scripts, it really just depends on on the writer, the screenplay. Like if you get really descriptive, you might be able to kind of figure out what that character is all about. I'm not too descriptive when I write screenplays. I do leave a lot of room there for people to kind of figure out themselves. But some people do, and so I think that might be a little bit easier for actors and actresses to just kind of figure out the character from the page.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. It does help. I'll know going forward that I'll need to dig into my character and understand my character a little bit more. So that was such a great learning experience for me. It was. That's how you and I first started talking, because I had posted something up about filming in Scottsville, Kentucky, and no one knows where that is. But such a cool little tiny town in the middle of nowhere, super country, but they absolutely love film out there. Apparently, they they shut streets down for us, and there was a lot of people in the little town that got involved, and we had such a good time out there. What about you? Did you have the same experience with that?
In Scottsville, yes, but I wasn't really involved in the town. I was filming in my friend's yard and woods area, so I didn't get involved with that. I will say with that experience though, it can go both ways. It can go both ways. As far as I've had some weird experiences filming. Okay, so the first movie that we filmed was Brimstone. Okay, and that was filmed in Tompkinsville, Kentucky, which is actually 45 minutes down from Scottsville. So
that's Hoptown. That's what we call it, Hoptown.
No, not Hopkinsville, Tompkinsville.
Oh, I'm like, oh wait, I don't even know where that is. Okay,
close. It's very close. Anyway, Brimstone's about these 4 goths. Okay, now here's another. There's a lot of stories here, but we were supposed to shoot the week before that, but our lead actress that was going to play in the movie dropped out a few hours before we started filming. So we had to regroup. Then the next week, so we get there, and the makeup artist makes up all these people, okay? And we get ready to go down to Brimstone, which is actually a place, and it's a wooded area. And so before we go, we stop at a gas station, and the guys and girls that are dressed up goth-like, it's actually like pale goth, like ghostly, ghastly goth.
Yeah.
So they go into the store,
mm-hmm.
kind of just probably showing off or whatever. But anyway, while they're in there, they call the cops.
Wow.
The cops pull them over, berate them for the longest time, trying to basically get out of my town kind of deal. It was really wild. So that's the first experience with a small town. So sometimes it goes that way. Sometimes it goes the way with you, where they're very nice and very humble. Sometimes, let me see. So when you film in the city, you get all kinds of different things. Sometimes everything's cool. We got thrown out of a laundromat once in Nashville because they said there's a liability. You could hurt somebody. There was literally nobody in there. It was completely empty. But
wow. I believe it though.
Yeah, and then so we just went to another one. And then we did a film called The Dirty Sanchez. This isn't my film, but I shot it and edited it for a guy named Anthony Cooney. And so we were up in Chicago, and there's this scene where this guy in a mask, a little clear mask, he grabs this girl and puts her in a van. Right? So we're filming this, right? And somebody drives by, calls the cops. and it was like very quick. Like, because before we finished wrapping up that scene, the cops came by. I was like, what's going on here? And I had to tell a little white lie and say that we were college students at Columbia. And hey, he was like, oh, okay. All right. But yeah, so I've had different experiences.
I feel like those type of so when we're doing like lower budget, like indie movies, those type of things always happen. That my very last night of filming was my death scene. We filmed for the movie and the film this summer, All That Ends, and we were filming at a park in Hendersonville, and I'm not going to tell you how I die. I'm not going to give any of that away, but they did have to tie me to put me in a harness, and it was swung over a tree because they had to pull me 4 feet off the ground. And it was so it's in a park. I mean, this is like midnight. So the police come rolling by. They're like, we're not going to put you. Yeah, there's police. We got to make sure all the police are gone, because I was like, dude, if the police roll up on here and you got me hanging from a tree, it's gonna look real bad. Really bad. And but we timed it just right, and but I remember looking at I was so nervous. I said, have you ever done anything like this before? And he said, no. I was like, I want to know what guy out here is going to think he's going to lift me 4 feet off the ground for you just tying this harness over this tree. He goes, none of us are. See that? And I turn around, look behind me, and it was tied to a truck. So But it turned out okay. It ended up a police officer did end up coming out, and he was so cool and into it. He ended up staying and hanging out with us and watching the rest of our filming that night. So, but yeah, crazy things like that always happen. It's kind of fun. It's fun to look back at it, you know.
Yeah. There was another time we had these a guy and girl underneath the bridge in Cookville, and I guess somebody called the cops on us there too, I think, or the cops were just driving by. I don't know, but they stopped there and everything. And all I really had to do was produce a card, and I had a video, a card with my video credentials on at the time, and I gave it to him, and he was satisfied. But he didn't really. He was cool about it. But I mean, yeah, sometimes those kind of things happen when you're out shooting.
Yeah,
filmmaking.
It makes for a good story later. That's for sure.
It does. Yeah.
It does. I love it that you filmed in Cookville because no one knows where that is.
Well,
yeah, I love Cookville. It's I'm my job that pays the bills. I do manage a property out there, and I've had that one longer than I've had any other property. I've had it for about 5 years now as a regional manager. And I love Cookville. I was like, this little town, I've watched it in the past 5 years really grow. I think it's cool. I feel like there's been other movies that's been filmed there.
Yeah.
I almost think Donald Farmer's.
Yeah. Donald Farmer's from Cookville. The thing about
yeah.
Now, here's the thing about Donald Farmer. I haphazardly came across him. I met Tiffany Shepis, and I started getting into some films that she was doing. I think I was still in Richmond, Kentucky at the time. Now, I actually was. I was in Richmond, Kentucky, but I was just about to move to Cookville, so we'd been back and forth a few times there. And I'd known, about Cookville and everything because I actually grew up about an hour from there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had this movie, and it's called Dorm of the Dead, and I was like, because it's Tiffany Shepis, and I thought, I'm going to watch this. So I'm watching it, and then all of a sudden I see some landmarks that are like from Cookville, and I'm like, what is? Like, I had no clue, and I was like, who is this guy? So yes, come to find out, Donald Farmer directed that, and he at the time anyway, he was from Cookville. So I worked with Donald Farmer a few times. I did some talent show stuff for him. I filmed a Twilight fan thing for him. I don't know whatever came with it. He's been in a few of my movies. So he definitely was from there. There used to be some other people there too. I used to work with some guys called the 13th Joker Productions there. We did a little thing called, what was it called? The Toilet of Death, a little funny, silly thing. So I worked with some different people there. And yeah, I don't know how it is now, but it used to be.
That's awesome because a lot of people are like, "Oh, Cookville, where the hell is that at?" I'm like, it's right in between Nashville and Knoxville. That's the only thing I can tell you. But it's kind of tucked away, and it's more kind of a college town. But Cookville it's its own little thing. I mean, there's a lot of good restaurants and shopping there. It's almost it's almost like the hub with the little cities around it. So it is. It's a good little place. But I'll have to check. I've been writing notes down. I'm gonna have to check these movies out you've been talking about. So,
sure. So speaking of movies, so let's talk a little bit about the podcast. So what's our intention, our goal here? What do we have for people? So we're not going to do reviews. We're not a horror movie review podcast. I think there's over 20 million of those.
Totally oversaturated for sure. I feel like not just movies. I think horror in general, but so you and I are a little bit different. I feel like just from what I know about you, we're a little bit different, and we go kind of an extra step. We're a little extra when it comes to horror, and so I was thinking a little more extreme. We can talk about extreme things, and let's kind of go outside the comfort zone. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I love all horror. Like they're all facets of it, really. Like I like everything from like even Paranorman, or like Beetlejuice and Nightmare Before Christmas. I like everything horror. So it spans all of it, really. But I do like the extreme stuff. I do seek some of that stuff out, but yeah, I mean, I think we can cover all the topics. We'll cover a lot of the quote unquote mainstream, but also a lot of indie stuff, right? And then also the hardcore stuff.
I'm really into the indie because I feel like Hollywood is the mainstream is just, I mean, I want to go outside and talk about things that maybe not your average person wouldn't even know about. But if they hear us talk about it, they might go and seek it out. We might find a little hidden gem in there we can talk about and, help some of the indie. But you know what? Not just movies, anything horror I actually love. I do acting. I actually do a lot of acting, not just movies, but I I'm almost the band Three-Legged Circus. It's an 80s tribute band. So they're Three-Legged Circus, and so I dress as like a sexy killer clown. So I dress I dress up all the time for their shows, and I do it because I absolutely love doing it. And I've been learning makeup. I'm really kind of starting to dabble in makeup a lot, and have come a long, long way. Like to do my clown makeup usually takes me about 2 hours to do. So there's so many topics that we can cover, and in that way we can really broaden the horizon and get a wide range of audience. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, we're going to interview some of the indie people that are on the scene that we know of or that want to come on. Anybody that's really kind of a horror aficionado that really wants to, talk about horror, right? We'll do some interviews. We'll do some talking about movies, talking about what we watched, what we're interested in right now, maybe some things that are coming up, events and everything, obviously with that we have going on or that we know about. Just kind of a little bit of anything horror, but nothing. We're not a horror review podcast. That's really not what we're here for. We're here to kind of just talk the talk, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so excited about this. When I started telling close friends and people that I know in the horror industry, the horror community, I've had so many people come and say, "Hey, you want to feature me?" Yes, I would have. Really? I have had so many people come and just offer because they love it. They love talking about their movies and what they're filming and what they're acting in. So I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah. I think it's going to be good too. All right, so let's talk about what you've been watching. So I guess if you want to do spoilers?
We can.
Okay.
Why not? Let's do them. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
For Scream, you just watched Scream. What you didn't like it very much, I take it.
No, I didn't. Oh man, it was all I could do to sit through it. I feel like it was so predictable. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there with my boyfriend and he's going, "Oh, this is what's going to happen." And he could even quote what they were going to say before they'd said. Now, there was some things that I could appreciate in there that it looks like that they've been filming it for a long time because Wes Craven, I guess, has been passed away for a few years now. So It does look like they've been filming it for a long time. And, it's in probably for, people that are in the mainstream, but it was so cheeseball and goofy to me that I just could. It was hard for me. It was really hard for me to sit through it. But I mean, I'm not going to say it was terrible, but I probably won't ever watch it again. That's just my opinion. What did you think when you saw it?
Well, I liked it, but now we talked about this before. So you said you only saw Scream 1 before this. Did you end up watching 2, 3, and 4 before this?
Nope.
Okay. I feel like that might have had something to do. I think I told you can still watch it, but there's a lot of Easter eggs and there's little things that kind of that as the movies have progressed, that you finally see them kind of culminate in this movie. I liked it. I mean, I did think there was obviously some moments that were easy to figure out. I don't think the plot twist was that big of a twist like the original and stuff like that. Again, you can't really top the original, but I am a fan of this franchise. The thing that I like about the franchise is that they do stay true to it throughout. And as far as like, kids, like with Friday the 13th and Freddy and all those, they were, and especially Halloween, they were just kind of feeling it out as they were going along. They didn't really know what the formula was. They're trying to get it right now with Halloween, you know, but like they didn't really know. So they're just kind of just throwing things at a wall, hoping it would stick. And they didn't really do that with this. They stayed true with like the characters came back, you know, until they died with every movie. I do like that because the continuity is great. I don't know if it'll go anywhere from here, but I liked it. I mean, I didn't. Again, when I left the theater, I was a little bittersweet about it, but I liked it. I didn't love it, but I do like the franchise.
I guess that's what it is that after you've seen so they're remaking a Halloween right now. I'm like, oh my God, how many can you make? You know, I'm like, the first 5 was great, or actually the second one, it was the second, or that was the third one, I think. There's one of them that was so completely different, but
oh, you talking about the one that had the masks that didn't even have Michael Myers?
yeah, I think so. Where the kid was watching the TV screen, the little commercial or whatever it was. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but
You remember that song?
oh,
Halloween, Halloween, 3 more days of Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
That was
that was a good impression,
was-
actually.
that was the. It was,
that was that was really good. But yeah, I was like, this is so completely different. But I don't know, after you've seen him so many times, that's just me. That's my opinion. I'm like, I only see it so many times. It's the same thing. He's coming after, you know, his sister and the family, and that's it. That's all he wants. And they kill him and he dies. All right, time to make another movie. And it's the same thing over again. They just change it up. So I guess I get bored with it. So I will say that I really like Rob Zombie's remake of Halloween because it kind of told the backstory on Michael Myers, like how he what he become as an adult. So it started with him as a child. And I really did enjoy that one, just because it had the backstory. So it was a little bit different.
okay, I can appreciate part 1, but what about part 2?
Oh man. Oh my gosh. I couldn't stand. Are you talking about Rob Zombie's part 2?
Yep.
Oh, you know what? I remember going, there is so much like whining and crying in it. I've saw it one time, and I have absolutely no desire to see it again. And again, that's my personal opinion, but yet no, I didn't like the second one like at all.
Yeah, it was a little. I don't know. It missed the mark somehow.
Oh, it missed the mark. Oh man, if I could just I'm like, man, it's like I'm a mom with a teenage daughter that's like crying and wailing and drama all through the entire movie. Oh, like it just is such a cringe movie for me. And I hated that because the first Halloween, I love the first remake of Halloween, Rob Zombie's version, I love so much. But the second one, oof, that one was hard for me. But so Scream just kind of happened because there was a movie that I was trying to watch called Headless. Sounds like you've seen it before. I don't even know. So if someone recommends a movie or I hear about it or read a review on it, so I have a list that I always keep and I put it on my list. And so when I'm sitting in the bed at night and I'm like, hey, what am I going to watch? And I'll go back and look at my list. But that movie, of course, I didn't end up finding it. I am going to find it and watch it. So that's kind of how I ended up watching the Scream movie tonight. But Headless, I don't know if you remember anything about it.
I remember a few little scenes, like the girl in the shed, and there's a few little scenes I do remember. Yeah, I mean, I think you'll enjoy it. It's not bad.
Okay, well, I expected like, oh, it's so great, but okay. Well, I like to watch everything myself to form my own opinion, but I'm still want to kind of check it out, and I got to check that off my list for sure.
It came out in 2015. I think that's when I saw it, so it's been a while.
Okay, yeah, no, it was 2015. I'm surprised I haven't heard of it, and I thought that it was related to the movie Found. But like you said earlier, you said no. I think in the movie Found, he was watching that on on a TV.
Yeah. So with that stated, it probably is related somehow. You know how it is. Like you put your own movie in your movie. You know, I would assume. I don't know exactly what the connection is there, but I guarantee you there is one.
Yeah.
Whether it be a director, writer, producer, or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's cool that directors do that. One thing I love to do is watch different like documentaries on little secrets or hidden things that directors do in movies that you would never, some people might pick up on it, but different things that you can pick up on and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that when I watched the movie. That would be cool. I'm sure when you were filming, you probably set, I'm sure you set, you can tell me if I'm wrong. Did you place anything? I'm going to do this on purpose as a sentimental thing, or did you do anything like that?
Sure. Yeah. Quite often. Yes.
Yeah. See, that's actually really cool. So, hey, maybe that could be your next project, is making a documentary on the little hidden things that you done and the meaning behind them during your filming your movie.
Maybe. Yeah. That could be it. Yeah, there's always little things, like just little things that mean something, you know, that especially in my first movie and maybe my last, I think I really implanted little things. The last one was more in the narration than anything, but yeah, for sure. I mean, there's always there that, you know, you kind of go kind of little in jokes, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So, Room 231, that's one that kind of I think of first. Have you seen the documentary Room 231?
Oh yeah, well, look, that one's good. But it gets wild, man.
It does get, yeah, I mean, it does get a little extra. You're like, oh, are they overthinking that? You know?
I mean, look, because there's some of them that really kind of make sense. You go, wow, that actually could be. But then when they come to start dissecting like scenes, like where there's a chair there, and then the next scene shows it again, and the chair's not there, and they go, well, that was deliberate, because I think that might just be a fucking continuity error.
That one was, that's what I'm saying. That one was a little extra, but there were some things in there that I could appreciate, but
Sure.
always like, you know, like just what is getting to the director's brain? What was the director thinking while filming this? Why did he or she did this or this or this? You know, I think that's cool.
Right. And it's easy to look at a Kubrick film and, you know, as smart as the guy was, think that he did implant some things. And I'm sure some of those are spot on, you know, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one's pretty far reaching at times, but I do like it. Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah. Cool.
What have you been watching lately? Anything you want to talk about? Any kind of
anything I've watched lately? I will tell you that the last thing that I watched that was like, holy shit, was actually one of your recommendations. It was a short on YouTube. It was Aftermath.
Aftermath, yeah.
That was a good one. I'm like, I think it was only 12 minutes long. I really think it was only 12 minutes long, but I'm like, holy shit, that is 12 minutes of some. It was the whole damn thing was super intense, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I really did. I was like, damn, it was spot on. It was definitely spot on. God, yeah, it was really good. So I appreciate that recommendation. That's a recommendation for anyone listening. Aftermath on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I was surprised that I could find that on YouTube, because I was like, oh, this is a little extreme for YouTube. I was really surprised that I actually found that.
May not be there tomorrow.
It might not. Oh, God, that's legit, too. There's movies I'll see. Oh, well, man, yesterday I could have watched that for free. But today it's no longer available. So, but, you know, I watched it on YouTube, and it was really, really good. And it's a little older. I couldn't remember when was that filmed. Do you remember?
Like 94, 92.
Yes, it was definitely older. And I was like, how have I not seen this before? But it was really good. It was a good 12 minutes of really intense. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Cool. Yeah. Anything else you got?
No. What about you? Anything that you've watched recently that you just loved and want to talk about?
again, right now I've been digesting Freddy's Nightmares. They're not great, but
Are you talking about the Freddy's Nightmares, like the show?
oh yeah, the show.
Where are you streaming that?
You can't stream it anywhere.
So how are you watching it?
I had to buy a MOD Blu-ray of it because I could not find it streaming anywhere. It's not streaming on anywhere. It's not streaming on YouTube. You might can find one or two on Daily Motion. It's really hard to find. So I had to get it from this company called Sloppy Seconds Sales.
Wow, Sloppy Second Cells. All right.
Yeah. So they do a lot of mod stuff, and that was the first one I got from them. I mean, the quality is not great, but again, this is pretty much just, I think, recorded TV, from the Chiller channel. So, but it was good to see them because it was. I mean, I haven't lived in years and years.
Yeah, for me, that's like a blast from the past right there, for sure.
Right.
For sure. I wouldn't mind actually seeing those again, honestly.
One of the things I watched, so I told you about this one. It's called Thesis. About this girl who's doing a thesis on violence in cinema, like hardcore snuff violence and stuff. And the film itself is not hardcore, but it's pretty cool because it plays out kind of like a murder mystery.
Mm-hmm.
You can find that one on YouTube. I watched. Let's see.
What was that one called again?
Called Thesis.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
And then I rewatched Vamp. Have you ever seen Vamp from 1986?
I don't think so. I think I've seen the cover of it.
Yeah.
So I can't forget the cover. That's what I'm saying. In the 80s, the covers were everything.
Absolutely.
I've seen the cover of it, but I haven't actually watched the actual movie.
Pretty good. It's very 80s. It's got Grace Jones as a vampire and everything. It's pretty cool. I recommend it. It's not hardcore or nothing, but it's still fun. I watched a little movie called Red Heaven, which is a new movie. Well, not new actually. It came out a couple years ago, but it's Robert Rodriguez directed it.
Nice.
Of it. It's not one of his best, personally, in my opinion. But I think it's just something he did for fun. I think it's just something I think I read on there that it's some insert from his book that he wrote. So maybe he did like a story in there or something. I'm not really for sure, but so the other one, I told you about this one too. It's called Taxidermia.
Oh yeah, I actually have that one on my list. Actually,
that one is so crazy. It's 3 different like stories, but they're all connected. The first one is about this perverted soldier who's like, I mean, I don't want to give it away but he's sticking his genitalia in ice and he's doing all these things, watching these girls, and he's really weird. Second story is about this eating contest champion.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of gross actually, because there's a lot of projectile stuff going on there. And then the last one is actually that guy's son is the last part, and he's a taxidermy guy. He's the one that does that, and that one is probably it's maybe the most dope. But yeah, I recommend it. It is hardcore for sure.
So one thing is that I absolutely love, and I think you know this, I love foreign films because they go they take a whole extra step.
Yeah.
But with a lot of that, so people who watch movies, like, we'll take my boyfriend as an example. He's like, oh my God, is it got subtitles? I was like, yes, I don't want to watch it. And I'm like, damn it, that sucks. Yeah. And some people can't sit there through the subtitles. I'm like, if the movie is that damn good, there's a movie that I've been trying to get him to watch for the longest time. It's called, I think it's called The Skin I Live In. It's Antonio Banderas. Have you seen that?
Yeah, where the boy, what do you do with the daughter? And then he.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You're gonna give it away, but you're picking up what I'm putting on. I've been trying to get him to watch that forever, and he's like, oh, the subtitles. I'm like, oh man, but the movie, if a movie is so damn good, I don't care about watching subtitles. I'll read the subtitles all day long. Like Martyrs is probably my favorite movie, and it's all subtitles. So I don't mind that. But some people need to realize that they need to kind of step outside their comfort zone and read the subtitles. If they're really in a film, the movies are so they can be so much extra and so great. But that's really hard for some people to sit there through that. That is kind of a challenge, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think for like just the average horror watcher, they don't, they might pick up like a Dario or Argento movie or something every now and then. They're not going to really delve into it very deeply. But I'm like you. If it's really interesting, I'll watch it. If it's kind of boring, I'll probably be flipping through my phone and I won't even catch all the subtitles. So it does need to kind of hold my attention, really, to really get in.
That's what I'm saying. If the movie is that good, if it's that good, then there was another. So there's a lot of I love foreign films, horror films. Itchy the Killer. Have you seen that one?
Yes.
I was like, I don't care about watching subtitles. I don't care about reading them. It's so good and so intense. I loved it. I love that movie.
Do you like Let the Right One In?
So I haven't seen that. I saw the remake of it, the American version. Yes, yes. I've seen the remake. It was funny. I told you my mom like kind of got me into horror movies. Like, God, whenever the remake come out years and years ago, her birthday, I was like, let's go to the movies. And then we saw the remake at the movies. What was the remake called? It was
Let Me In.
Let Me In. Yeah, Let Me In. Yep. But I've heard that the original was a lot better.
I mean, actually, the remake's not bad. It's not bad.
Okay.
I don't think it's better than the original. I think the original is better for sure. But the remake's not bad. I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. There are certain ones I absolutely hate, like the Martyrs remake. But no.
I tried to watch that the other day. I was like, I'm turning this shit. This is bullshit. This is terrible. Like the main chick was with the actress from Pretty Little Liars. I was like, I was just so not sold on it. It was awful. It was terrible.
Yeah. So since you love Martyrs, what do you think about the Pascal's other movies? Do you like any of his other stuff?
Throw some names out there at me.
Did you ever see The Tall Man?
Nope.
Bill? What about Incident in a Ghostland?
Oh my gosh, was that the same director? I didn't realize that.
Correct.
I love that movie.
That one's pretty wild.
That it was like it just the whole thing. I was like, God, it just caught me off guard. I was like, oh wow, there was such a twist in it, and I didn't see it coming, but it was so intense. It was great. That was probably that year. I think it was 2019 when I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one of my favorite movies of the year, actually.
Yeah, it's actually on Netflix right now, I think.
Is it? I think I watched it on Shudder back in the day, but no, it's a great movie. Great movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't realize that was the same director. That's the same director as Martyrs.
Yep, same guy.
Wow, I didn't even know that. That totally makes sense, though. Definitely makes sense.
It does, yeah.
So that means I got to check out The Tall Man. Is that a good one?
My least favorite of his, and it's his very American movie, but again, it's got Jessica Biel in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jessica Biel. I believe it's her. Yeah, it wasn't my favorite, but again, it's all right. Worth a watch for sure.
Okay, all right, I'll check that one out. All
So
right.
those other hardcore ones I was telling you about. What was that one? Angst. Remember Angst? I was telling you about Angst. That movie, yeah, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it as a whole. Because for one, I don't want to give too much away, but I didn't like the camera work in the beginning, because it's kind of that camera that's, well, it's like it's almost adjacent to the actor. So when he's running, I don't like that kind of look, and there's a lot of that in there. I will say that there's not a lot of plot to it, not enough. When it gets going, it is pretty, I guess, extreme, but not. And you'll find it mild since you've watched all these other movies, but it is, I would say, considered extreme. But it's not as extreme as a lot of these other movies that we've seen. I would say worth a watch, but I didn't love it.
It's funny. It's funny from a director standpoint and an actress. Like camera angles can make such a difference in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Such a difference. I was telling you about a movie that I watched a couple weeks ago, and famous actress. Maybe I don't want to say any names, but famous actress from the 80s. And I was like, you can so tell the camera angles, like you can tell that they shot her and she was having a conversation with someone, but when they shot the person she was having the conversation with, their body length, it was the wrong way. It was awful. It was so obvious. And I was like, little shit like that, like, if you want to direct a movie, like you got to pay attention to little things like that, because we'll pick up on it and it could just run something that could potentially be really good. That's what I feel like.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's really no excuse for that unless you just,
or you're in a hurry. They're in a hurry, or new, maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't even know the director of the movie that I watched, but I mean, they had enough money to pay a pretty famous, known horror actress from the 80s. Mm-hmm. I would think that they would know. I mean, some of the camera angles were so bad. Like, I know if you watched it, you would be like, oh, that's not good at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a learning experience. I mean, I think, if I look at my movies, a lot of them, that it was the growth from each, hopefully, at least a little bit. But then again, for me, like, there is time constraints a lot of times. I mean, I don't, when I work, I mean, a lot of times we're talking about a skeleton crew, and I mean a skeleton crew. So sometimes it's just me.
Well, I've only seen one of your movies, and I never ever and not one point in the movie where I was like, that's some bad camera angles. I never ever said that. So kudos to you for that. Yeah. And it has to be hard too, because there was times where, like the entire crew would show up on set when I was filming, and like one of the leads wouldn't show up. Well, if one of the leads don't show up, you can't film. And we'd sit around, and sometimes the director would be like, all right, I got to go completely change this scene up because such and such. And I was like, oh my gosh, this has got to be so hard, from a director standpoint.
I had that happen to me. I was filming a movie called Hematic Web, and there was this actress. She was on one of those seasons of Naked and Afraid. I won't say her name, but anyway, she was supposed to be. I was in Chicago and drove out to Hammond, Indiana, and we were all driving out there from Chicago, and I was there. I was in the driveway in Hammond, and she texted me and said, "Hey, I can't make it." And what we were shooting that day was dialogue heavy. It was 5 people sitting around talking to each other, and it was supposed to have been 3 guys and 2 girls. And it was like, okay, because like I'm over an hour and a half from Chicago. I can't call up somebody and be like, hey, can you come over here real quick and do this,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. So I literally had to improvise, and luckily I was working with Kayla Williams, and she was able to just we basically condensed the dialogue into her, and took away some parts that we didn't need, obviously some of the back and forth that didn't make sense anymore, but she had to absorb some of that dialogue, and we did it pretty effortlessly. But it's hard sometimes. I mean, you have to, the thing about being an independent filmmaker, especially a no budget or low budget independent filmmaker, is you have to be able to make decisions on the spot. Otherwise, you're not going to get your film made.
Mm-hmm.
We're making another film, back to the Dirty Sanchez. Tony had a bunch of people that came out to be like kind of background extras and stuff in this one scene. And there was supposed to have been a scene where this guy got his hands cut off. And the special effects guy, he was working on it, but he just couldn't get it kind of down for the time. And basically I was just like, hey man, why don't we just do it like this? We'll just kind of have him come forward and we'll kill him off, and we'll shoot it this other way, and it'll still, it won't have the exact same impact, but we'll get it done. And so sometimes you have to do it like that. You have to kind of change it up, at the spur of the moment, because something happens that you just didn't control.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably like the biggest challenge for directors, is those things happen, and you have to be quick on your toes and come up with a game plan, and just figure things out, get it done really quick. I mean, that would be very challenging, I feel like, from a director standpoint.
Absolutely. I mean, I've known people who've started projects and they never finished them. I worked on projects that will never see the light of day. I can happily say that every project that I started, as far as like we actually shot footage, I finished. There have been some projects that we thought about doing and didn't end up doing,
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. Stuff happens with scripts and, projects and the like. But any movie that I actually, got people together and we actually filmed the first scene, I finished. So it's hard to do. It's not easy, because any film takes a lot of work, from the minutest little 5-minute film to especially an indie feature is just daunting.
Yeah, I believe that. That's legit for sure. Well, so we've covered a lot tonight.
Yep.
We've covered a lot tonight, and I'm super excited about this podcast. I'm super excited about it, and there are so many more things I want to cover, but we can't cover everything in one night.
So wait till next time.
Yeah, next time we got so much more to cover, and I have some really cool people lined up for this.
What? Excellent. I can't wait. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
So I guess that's it for us for now.
Let's keep it hardcore.
All right. You guys keep it hardcore. We'll see you next time.
Harder the better.
Wow. That's hardcore.
Nothing harder.